Hello, Internet. Welcome back to Good Game Nation. I'm here with Sam and Zach. Say hello, boys.
Hello, hello.
What up?
Uh, Today we're going to be talking about card game archetypes and speaking from experiences that we've had in various other card games uh, about what we think we'll see in the first set of the One Piece trading card game.
Yeah.
So just to start off, I know Sam and Zach both agree on what like what the overarching ideas are for like card game archetypes. So do you guys want to just name the big umbrellas and then we'll get into more details?
Yeah, I mean, it's traditionally you're looking at combo decks, control decks, and aggro decks,
Yeah, I think
and they
any
broken down.
yeah anything that you want to like name deck wise usually fits under one of these three categories. I don't know if there might be some exceptions for other specific card games, but for the very generic most part, one of your decks will fit under one of these three categories pretty nicely.
We have three like umbrella groups, and everything else we talk about from here are either going to be a aggro deck, a combo deck, or a control deck. For the most part, there's going to be
Yeah.
maybe some decks are going to take a little bit of each one and create a combination of multiple things to get their deck flowing. But we'll most likely see everything under that those three umbrellas.
Mhm.
Yeah, I agree.
Cool. So speaking from experiences, what do you think you would like to see in set one?
Um, you go ahead, Sam. You go first. Go ahead.
What I like to see versus what I think we will see. We've seen four archetypes so far. We've seen the four structure decks. It's green, or red, green, purple, blue. You mentioned earlier off podcast that there's the little hexagon and the six square on the side, so we'll probably see six colors. Maybe not right now, maybe in the future. But for right now, we have four. Generally, most of these card games will, for at least for one set, they'll focus on one of these three categories in some format. Usually, early games make the game very easy. We won't see anything too crazy. We'll see probably very generic things. Nothing, like I said, nothing too strong for the first set. Second set, though, we'll probably start to expand, start to see more drastic card effects. For the most part, I expect it to be pretty calm. I don't think any card game I've played where set one was just like crazy.
So set one, they release general like fighter decks where it's just going to be a
Yeah,
lot of small combos or small aggro pushes, but nothing crazy until people get used to the rule set.
I think it's just set one's usually just to help players understand the game. They'll let's take the most recent one. I'm gonna use Dragon Ball actually. That's probably the best. They had like four or five real important key terms, and they wanted to really establish those key terms. So a lot of the decks had these key terms, and there wasn't very much defining archetype between the types. I would say. Maybe they had a couple of these cards that made them really different. Like blue had a lot of manipulation in the energy or mana. I forgot what it was called actually. Key? What's it called? Key, Zach?
Your energy?
Yeah, was it called energy?
Yeah.
Okay, well, they had like energy manipulation, which was really cool. And then yellow had some counters, which was really cool, but like nothing too strange. But set two is when they released, serious hand drops and serious criticals and things like that. That really kind of really defined the game, I would say. Um, yeah, I think that's my early thoughts right now.
Yeah. What about you, Zach? You have continued to play through Dragon Ball Super into Digimon, and I know you've spent some time in Magic also. So,
Yeah.
what do you think could
Yeah.
happen in here?
I mean, look, I've played like everything. There was a point. The Beyblade had a TCG,
We played
bro.
Beyblade. Played Beyblade.
Yeah, that was crazy. That was a fun time. But anyway, um, the
It was
crazy
terrible.
thing, like touching on what Sam was saying, yeah, the game was trash. But talking on what Sam was saying, so the funny thing is, set one in Dragon Ball, there was actually like a tier one consistent deck, but nobody knew about it because the game was in its infancy still, and it kind of took off at the beginning of set two, things became more relevant, right? Like yellow became more relevant in set two, so the 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 deck from set one, the Vegeta, was just overall just the best deck for probably the first year and a half of the game, I would say. And that or like the structure deck. But I played Digimon set one as well. Bandai seems to try to keep things mostly player friendly, I guess.
Yeah.
Um, you won't see anything that makes people not want to play the game yet,
Yeah.
so that's good. Because it's inevitable. You're gonna get these, and I want to see it. I think it brings. It's what separates like the like hyper competitive
From the
from the
casuals.
casual.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's when you get like when you're at these like major world tournaments and stuff, and you see these super complex decks that require a lot of thinking, and if you mess up once, you probably cost yourself the game, kind of thing. Those are like really rewarding to learn how to play properly. And I don't think we see those early. We probably just get a generic something color based, right? So in Dragon Ball, it was blue was like blue was energy manipulation, like untapping, having extra resources basically, which is to this day still the best thing about. It's still the most oppressive thing about that game. Is the free use of extra energy is just
Yeah.
it's not okay. Um, I got into a conversation with the team about this the other day. They tried to everybody's calling for bans on yellow and stuff right now. Excuse me, because basically your yellow is your board control. It taps. It taps a bunch. It taps your opponent's cards. Taps your energy. Like it's oppressive. Don't get me wrong. But
Control.
yeah, absolutely. Yellow is a super control deck. So is blue. Um, green is a hand control deck. So I guess even though it's a discard and like it's every one of the decks is oppressive in their own type of way. And even aggro decks, like if I can kill you on turn two, like you're probably not having a good time.
Right.
That depends on
So
the game, I would say. A
people,
lot of games don't always do that, but Bandai games I think have been like
Yeah,
that though.
they're
Um,
consistent.
I was thinking about. I was just pondering on Yu-Gi-Oh right now, where Yu-Gi-Oh, especially very early, was very generic. Like there wasn't like crazy like archetypes. There's still, and maybe there wasn't until maybe synchros, I would say, where it was maybe there was a warrior branch here and there, but it wasn't very archetype favor. It was more like player turns, I would say. Like whoever made the better turns would win. That's probably
It's
the
like
better way to put it.
the flow, like the flow of the
Yeah,
game
maybe
itself.
that's probably the more accurate to put it. Whoever controlled the flow better and was able to manage cards better, whoever had the card advantage would win. Um, Now Yu-Gi-Oh is obviously in set what 40, 50, somewhere there,
Uh,
and
the, yeah,
something like that. Maybe I'm lowballing it. I've been out of Yu-Gi-Oh for a long time, and now it's very combo focused. So
that game's still insane. I didn't mean to cut you off, but it's
oh
the
yeah,
game turned from there was the warrior thing you brought that you catch on to games really quick, bro. Like really quick.
it's
But
experience, buddy.
yeah, he's we're sitting there at a local and Sam comes out with this warrior deck and all of a sudden he's people are getting beat by like a deck that costs like maybe $10. And
Mm,
they were getting like thrashed, like absolutely thrashed. And he did the same thing with Dragon Ball, figured it out really quickly. And then when you look in comparison to where those games started and how simple it was with a little bit of like, what's the word I'm looking for? I don't think it's ingenuity. Maybe it is. But uh, basically, if you control, you put your own little flair on it and you kind of play your deck the way that you want to play it. And as opposed to now the games are, if you don't play your deck this specific way, you're probably not going to be successful, especially in Yu-Gi-Oh. I tried to play recently, and like
yeah, Yu-Gi-Oh's
other than
hard.
the ridiculous $1,000 price, like base standpoint for your deck, like it's you're forced to play a specific amount of cards. Like you're forced to play like 11 to 15 hand traps because if you don't open one, your opponent's just going to beat you on turn one, and you don't even get to go.
Yeah.
Yeah, those aren't fun. I agree. Those aren't fun.
So
Yeah,
there's a lot of oppressive like control stuff that ends up happening over time where uh each like archetype will build up like uniquely to the point where everyone hates playing against a certain type of build.
Yeah, every deck has had one of those, right? Like every
would you?
game, like Yu-Gi-Oh was people hated to play against Chainburn. Um,
I would say Dragon Ball had some decks that were like that, felt like that too, where everyone in the format was playing. I think 75% were playing like this one deck. I'm not too into Digimon. I couldn't say that. I wouldn't say Naruto wasn't like that though. They also had a rotation though. Rotation really helps eliminate those possibilities because people can always go. You're only focused to play on this couple sets. That limits some of the really nasty oppressive cards that were in 4 sets ago. So
yeah, like
yeah.
Sensubin is still relevant.
Yeah, set one card from Dragon Ball. I'm assuming, and I'm assuming Bloodlust or Cold Blood. What was it? Bloodlust?
Oh yeah, it's limited though, so that's
No.
cool.
Okay. Well, so
Uh,
there's cards that were introduced very early on, like Champa as well. I gotta imagine will always be a little relevant.
1 to
Um,
2 mandatory.
oh, there you go. Yeah. So I'm just guessing here. So yeah, it just depends on what the game does. Like I said, set one. I can't imagine anything too crazy. We'll see very basic aggro decks. We'll see maybe some very basic combo decks. I would say Dragon Ball had it a little bit with the Frieza stuff. I think
Yeah,
it wasn't very good because for a combo deck you need a lot of options, a lot of tools, a lot of cards to do that. And with one set, you don't really have those options yet. But a couple sets later, you get a little more Frieza cards. You might have a little more options. That's just an example there.
yeah,
Control, it always depends on what the meta is. I would say if the meta focuses heavily on X and Y becomes very strong because of it. That's how that works.
Well, it
yeah,
ends up kind of being like a counter meta.
Yeah, kind of.
Got it.
yeah. Your
So
control deck will never be like your forefront of the meta
right, it's
because
always going to be
it's
the counter.
aggro's just always going to beat it. Like you're always going to lose game one, and you can't like tech your deck to help you in game one because then you worsen your other matchups. So you're just going into a tournament hoping like, all right, I'm gonna dodge aggro, and if I
Yeah,
don't, I'm gonna judge within the first few turns if I'm better than this guy or if he's on par with me or better than me. And based
like
on that
Game two and
scenario,
three.
yeah, based on that scenario, you're gonna be like, all right, cool. I'm just not gonna play game one because it's not worth my time to try to outplay you because it's gonna go back and forth. So I'd rather just I'm gonna sideboard what I need to, and we're gonna try to go from there. But decks like aggro are always going to be relevant because most of the time, game one will always go to the aggro player.
it's a fair statement.
Most of the time.
It's a fair
Yeah,
statement.
as long as they open up well and they play their hand properly, your
Yeah,
control isn't going to be able to match their speed.
I think who's our purple?
Purple
Who
right
else?
now is showing
That's
Kaido.
Kaido.
Kaido. Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
probably going to be I think purple is the combo focus color, in my opinion.
Hmm.
gorgeous segue into what we think characters are going to face into. Like, do you think we're going to see a rush deck with the Straw Hats, or like who do you think's going to face these archetypes? Who's going to be our One Piece characters that fit into these
I,
points?
I think character is very interesting because for Bandai games specifically, it's been color based. There we've have how many Gokus? I'm just gonna say 100. Goku fits under all these archetypes necessarily and doesn't recommend. He does not like. I'm always attacking with this. Sometimes we have Gokus that are combo or have an effect. Um, but I will say blue specifically has been either counter or energy manipulation. In this game, it'll be Dawn focus. So I would imagine blue has some kind of counter ability like magic, or some kind of energy manipulation like Sensu Bean or something along
Look,
those lines.
look, as
Dawn,
long as
dawn,
there's
dawn manipulation, not energy. Dawn.
as long as there's no like dawn ramp in set one, I think you're fine.
There was a dawn. There was a energy ramp in set one for Dragon Ball, and I think Objection had a really nice. It was called Objection, right?
Yeah,
It had a really nice setback because it made you put an extra card from your hand down, and card advantage was really important in that game. So I do think it was did have a setback. But yeah, I do agree. Seeing ramp early is kind of a mistake.
yeah, it's so bad for game design, like moving
So I think
forward.
blue was very oppressive for the first. three sets almost, because even if blue wasn't your main focus, blue was your second color, and you would run a little bit of blue just so you could play some of these
Eight
cards.
cards. 8 cards. That's it.
Yeah, yeah.
It's enough to be able to ramp and
Just
get
enough
ahead.
just enough to play the S tier of cards and run your deck still efficiently.
4 objection, 4 sensu bean.
Yeah.
Go.
Oh, maybe even some negates too, because that negate was very good too.
Yeah, that
Um,
card.
and I would assume, just again, I'm going off Magic because Magic has kept a really good. Their archetypes are pretty solid. I would assume red is some kind of rush or damage focused combo, because we don't know how damage is really done yet. That's probably one thing that was still really a strong mystery. We see there's 5 life. We don't know like how we take life yet. We don't know how like we're attacking yet. It could be very basic, and whoever has the higher attack points obviously wins. We don't know if there's like a damage step kind of thing. I would assume that red though tries to manipulate how damage and fighting works. Maybe some boost, maybe some double damage. Who knows?
Yeah, as I say, some extra
Yeah,
check.
double attack or something.
Yeah.
Please no crit though.
Yeah, absolutely not.
No
Like
crit.
not set one. Like, can we not? I need to. Everyone needs to be able to keep their advantage. Like, it's not okay to just be like, how many cards do you have in hand?
None.
Oh, I got like 4. Oh, what about you? And he's like, I got 13. You're just like, all right, I lost.
Yeah.
That's kind of how it came down in DBS too. Is I'm gonna be able to out combo you, so you're screwed.
Yeah.
Which
Yeah,
is
it's pretty much the exact same thing with just more words on the cards.
right. So with each character probably showing up in each archetype maybe at some point,
Yeah.
which of your favorite characters would you like to see in an archetype that you enjoy playing? Instead
Oh
of saying
man.
which characters
I want to.
are going to be there.
You did it. Like I
Yeah.
just saw an episode with him too. I would love to play a Dofi control deck. Oh my goodness, that would be so much fun. He's still one of my favorite characters. A Dofi control deck just feels right to me.
He's a puppet guy, right?
No spoilers. He hasn't caught up yet. No spoilers.
Yeah,
Hasn't caught up
yeah,
yet.
my bad. I ain't there. I've
He'll
seen
get
him though.
there.
You'll get there,
Yes, you've seen
but
Dofi.
Yeah.
yeah, probably. I think he has seen him
He
at
was in
this
the
point.
he was the end of Jaya, I think, or something like that.
Right.
He
Yes.
walked into like it was like with Mihawk and a couple other people in like.
Oh yeah, that does happen. Yeah, that does happen. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's an interesting idea too. I was thinking Usopp hand control stuff because he's the sniper. So yanking stuff out of people's hands, I
Old
think
Trappy.
I think that'd be really interesting.
I like that
I'm
idea.
super
Um,
I'm super biased, and I don't like Usopp.
Just because you haven't gotten far
You
enough
haven't
yet.
gotten that far yet, buddy.
So Usopp's a mill, and you know what I mean. He's
Oh,
a
I
mill.
could Usopp mill. There's no way we get a mill this early. By the
I
way.
would hope not.
That's set 5. You know, praying for the game's life. There's no way that.
Yeah, you can't do that turn game one, bro.
Oh
There's
my
no
god,
way.
mill decks are
No
the worst. I can't think of a game that maybe Pokemon was the only game that had a mill very early on. Ugh, gross.
That's so
Zach,
good.
do you have another character that you wanted to drop into an archetype?
I would like a Zoro tempo deck. Like, that'd be kind of cool. Like a weapon based deck, maybe.
Interesting.
And kind of like his progression. Like, so your tempo base is like your turn 1 is like you play Zoro, that maybe like searches top 7 for another Zoro, or searches for like a sword or whatever. And then your turn 2 is like equip sword attack or whatever. Or maybe it's like a jutsu, right? Or like or a spell. The swords are spells, maybe. I don't know. It would just be really cool. But I also like playing stuff that's solitaire, but I probably won't get that till like set 6.
Yeah, you probably won't get that early on. I think that fits under the red, the very generic red archetype. If it's under like play this, buff this, hit this for harder than your opponent can hit. So I think Zoro's a really proper, red style character. I don't know what else.
Chopper could be interesting, bro.
I don't even know what that would look like, brother. It's really hard. It's really hard to imagine that without the very specific mechanics. I think Chopper deals in specific mechanics, kind of like Nami and all the supporters type characters. They fit under the very specific mechanics, like Dawn or things like that.
Do you think the starter decks are going to be archetype heavy, or do you think they're all going to be generically somewhere between combo and aggro to have an easy way in for people to play?
I think starter decks will focus on game mechanic mainly. I think they'll all have a certain aspect of their own color, whatever it may be, right? Whether it's like buffing your characters or you know drawing a bunch of cards and discarding cards to trigger other effects, um, or however they choose to do it. But I think every single one of the starter decks is going to focus on like, okay, this is how you start the game,
Right.
and this is how you progress your game state, and each game state kind of just evolves based on the color.
Yeah, I would say the same. It still fits with the motive of trying to make the game easy, making it very accessible, making it very non-competitive. At least for the theme decks. Theme decks are going to focus on having enough 1 drops and 2 drops to play, and then having the shiny card being the one big drop. And every theme deck will probably base around that. I can't imagine there'll be very much diversity in the actual set. There should be a little bit of the diversity in the colors, whatever the game decides to be. Um, but in the theme deck specifically, I can't imagine very much diversity between the four and it being very generic.
Yeah, you usually look at like most starter decks incorporate cards from the set.
Yeah.
And there's only really like maybe
60?
10 to maybe like 15 cards that
Yeah.
don't come in the actual set that are like these are the starter deck cards, these are what's important from the starter deck.
Right. Yeah.
I could see eventually having like the Animal Kingdom Pirates being some type of token deck because there's just a lot of them. We've seen that they
Sure.
have a lot of crew members. Um, it's an interesting thing that they're doing Worst Generation and Seven Warlords as a two of the other starter decks because they're not actually crews. Those are like ideas.
Right.
So they generally wouldn't really work together in a team because they're all their own teams,
Yeah.
which leads to the Straw Hat Crew having their own starter deck, which of course they are. This is their
Set one.
story.
Yeah.
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 So they're gonna probably have the aggro and probably the most aggressive deck. I think
Yeah.
they are probably the most aggressive crew
Yeah.
when it comes to getting what they want. So it's an interesting.
Out of the 4 characters, I would question. I would say that what's Kid is just as aggressive. So it could be really interesting how the theme decks play out though,
Right.
because he's made some mistakes.
Eh, it's a interesting world to dig into for a card game because it can go so many different ways. And
Absolutely.
I saw people talking about Kid having all of these different like attributes that he could be part of.
Yep.
Um, so it's I think it can get quite complex just in certain aspects of the game
Yep.
for having characters that are complex, which is really cool.
Yeah. Definitely.
Um, with that being said, do you guys have any last thoughts before we sign off?
Mm,
Take that as
no,
a no.
yeah, I don't really think so. Other than a rotation, I think we're just gonna need that because
Rotation
at some
slash
point
ban list.
early,
Hopefully.
relatively early, because if you played like one event before you stopped playing set 3, you played the Mecha Frieza Goku turn 2 triple strike flash game, right? Like you've been there. It's like it's not fun. And I mean, I'm kind of speaking to the choir because like I played Storm and that's where I got most of my success from, and the deck was tier 0. Like I beat people on turn 1. Like the
Yeah.
deck was that
Hopefully
good.
the game doesn't get. Hopefully this doesn't get that because you still want to keep the very generic basic audience. And
Yeah,
with
and
a deck
that's what I'm
like that
saying. Like
existing is so oppressive and unfortunate for a game.
that stuff started happening set 3, set 4. So like
Yeah.
we would need a list around that time ish.
Yep.
You
I
know,
agree. I agree.
but I also think that the game it's like a a double edged sword, right? Because you need the game to evolve, and you need like people to figure out like, all right, yeah, this card from set 1 and this card from set 3 put together is broken. It's very good. And then that's when you start seeing results at tournaments, and that's when you can start questioning, like, all right, maybe this deck is too strong. What do we do? Et cetera, et cetera.
During the game design phase, they end up making something and they're like, oh, this is going to be fine. And then people put it together and it's like, this is not okay.
It's hard. I think it's hard to
Bandai?
have that. I think it's hard to have that foresight too, because
It is.
you're gonna have more experienced gamers than card designers. I think most of the time, and
Yeah.
it's just hard to see those gaps that far in the future. I would say so. I don't really blame them for that. It's
It
just,
would be ideal if they sit there and run their card design through like the same people who, because I'm assuming they have like their One Piece card design team, their Digimon card design team, Dragon Ball card design team. If they run their designs by the Dragon Ball design team, they could probably be like, hey, you should not do that. Because bro, they printed a card that was like, is a Master Roshi. It's green and it says when it's in your drop area, you can like banish it, right? To add back any green option card from your drop back to your hand. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. It was ignorant. And it took them, and they had another cell that said, because you guys stopped playing, so I know it was, you guys missed it, but it was fun.
Doesn't sound fun.
This cell deck could rip
fun.
11 cards from your hand in one turn on its awakening turn.
Skill.
Was ridiculous, bro.
Skill.
I was so heated.
Yeah, so
my buddy.
Let's hope One Piece doesn't allow.
I mean, not to that extent. Not to that extent. You gotta let people.
Bandai has been known to do things, because the Shidori Streambaki thing was a thing as well. Not letting your opponent play, but I think they're hopefully learning from those small mistakes. But then again, Naruto had a cycle list, so that wasn't so oppressive for more than a year. That was oppressive. So
it was really bad there.
It's not too bad, but I mean, it could be worse. But yeah, there's that.
I agree. Other than that, I think we're just like super. We're pretty eager, anxiously waiting for more news, more card effects, more reveals. I want to see the movie promos, bro. That's what I want to see.
Yeah. Very cool, guys. Thank you guys for letting me know what you guys think about card archetypes, how this game could evolve, and we would like to. I think it's really interesting to have conversations with people that are about playing to get more opinion as this game develops.
Yeah, definitely. Losing a little bit there, buddy.
Yeah, I guess it's time to thank you guys for watching. Let us know what you want to see when it comes to card effects and stuff in the comments down below. Like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.